Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to part 2 of my trip through the Path of Exile campaign, where I try to detail the mechanics of all of the unique enemies through the campaign as I go to the best of my ability. So that means I won't be going through the character progression of my currently fizz-based cleave build that I have going on. Just some random uniques, some garbage stuff. I'm trying not to make my damage too high, but also not too low that it's painful, so that the bosses just don't fall over instantly. Last time I went from Act 1 to Act 6. We're just at the beginning of Act 6, so we'll start where we started last time on the Twilight Strand. So at the end of the Twilight Strand is Rhys of Abram. He is one of these noble dead that launches their souls out when killed, but he just can do that without dying, and this is a physical based spell that he just periodically launches out. He has a melee attack as well, but the big damage is all in the soul spewing or whatever. I don't know what you would call that, but that's what is happening. That's all he really does. Pretty simple boss here. In the coast, where we found Fire Fury the first time, there is now this unique warhound called Raihara Tukuhama's Loyal. Now it can go underground, and when it travels underground, it leaves this flame dash of burning ground when it goes, and it also periodically lets off this fire nova. So there, it went underground, and it can come out with a molten shell. And when that molten shell gets broken, it will explode or it will expire. And for some reason, he wants to run away, which is strange. But that's all it does. It has the fire nova, the molten shell, which is kind of scary, and then the burning ground when it goes underground. In the title island, there is Riptide, a unique water elemental guarding a storage chest. You don't need to defeat Riptide to open the chest and get the manuscript that you're looking for, but this boss has a freeze pulse and drops these little vortexes that deal cold damage over time. Can chill you. Lots of enemies around it, but I think that's really the only mainly two attacks. It has a melee attack, and I guess it probably spawns these brine princesses. Yeah, tinier versions of itself keep spawning here. So lots of cold damage stuff there. On the far edge of the mudflats, we have the Dishonored Queen with a guard of forgotten warriors that are launching burning arrows and a blast rain style of skill where they fire arrows up in the air, they come down, and they can leave this pool of burning ground. So the Dishonored Queen will not do much other than fire these arrows that have the burning ground. She'll just walk around otherwise. Much less to worry about when all of the ads there are gone. Now in the Karui Fortress, we have to defeat Tukuhama, who can spawn a bunch of totems that launch fire stuff. And then there's a big totem in the middle that has a constant scorching ray that will circle around the area to debuff your fire resistance and cause you to take damage. So Tukuhama will just keep spawning these totems. There will become more of them. You can't damage the red ones, but the others you can, and he has a big slam attack. Tukuhama's Rage. Those ones you can damage, and they will launch little fireballs at the targeted locations in orange. Now, he can also, they were up here, summon a slew of ancestral totems that will whack you with melee damage if you're inside of those. And that pretty much covers his basic move set, but it's kind of tedious to kite around this totem. But yeah, here's the Tukuhama's Frenzy totems. They will whack you if you get close to those. Then, once we get him below half HP, he goes into this protective bubble with these totems around the arena that all need to be removed before we can go back to damaging the boss, and we still got to deal with all of the other totems and the giant scorching ray totem in the middle. So it's a little bit tedious, but if you're trying to be really careful like I am, just take your time. Let the totem keep it not firing at you. And these totems are kind of tanky as well. I'm just gonna let this work its way back around so that I can go at these and make sure I can finish them off. And then back to Tukuhama, who doesn't have any new moves in the second phase. We're just able to finish it off. And you can't really just easily kite around this totem because it will track to you regardless of where you're at. And just try and stay out of the big orange circles or the totem thing that Tukuhama does there. They just kind of explode in a little fire damage around their radius. Nothing too crazy, but a little more in-depth than some of the bosses we saw in the first half of the game. In the ridge, there is this lightning wheelie boy named Fleet Freak. It does lightning damage. If you get close to it, it is constantly ticking you with lightning damage. And it will charge at you with its wheeliness. That's really kind of all it does. It just charges around and does skeleton wheel things. And you kind of don't want to be on top of it ever. You don't want to be super close range to it, but you can stay at a decent range to deal damage to it. Oh, and it launches out these bleeding punctures. Ow, that hurts a little bit. Next up brings us to Chavron and Brutus. So, Brutus gets reassembled by Chavron, who sits in a protective bubble and still does lightning attacks with the books that calls down the storm call, and she also will occasionally launch lightning balls across the room while Brutus does these sequences of ground slams that cascade outwards, but in a smaller angle than the first fight, and they target you. Then also, Chavron can empower Brutus, and I would assume gives lightning damage to his attacks, though I've not gotten shocked or chilled by those. They're still mainly physical damage, but kind of dodge all of those, and then Chavron will pop out to fight. Now, Chavron will summon these little books that cast arc at you, occasionally fire the balls, but then she'll go up in the air and cast a sequence of the balls at you, but if you stand underneath, you get zapped with lightning damage. More storm calls, and then she blinks to a different spot, and back up in the air to dodge all of these. There we go. I think she has a big slam attack, if I remember correctly. She might go up in the air and do a big slam, or maybe that's with Brutus in the final phase. Just keep chipping away at it. Is that enough? Did we phase? Yep. So now she combines with Brutus, who now is fully charged with the Chavron juice, and continues doing his ground slams, his little warp across the room. And it's the only things he really does at this point. I actually think in most cases he probably does less damage once some of it gets converted to elemental. It's not all physical anymore. It's easier to get lightning resistance than it is to get the physical damage reduction armor nonsense. So I was pretty sure there was a slam where he would go up in the air and do this big AoE slam across the room. I don't know what causes that. Ow, that hurts actually when that hits still. Oh yeah, I don't know about the big AoE slam. I did this fight twice looking for it, so no clue. It could just be a map-only thing. A tower map? I don't know. In the Prisoner's Gate, there is the Valley of the Fire Drinker, which is inhabited by Aberrath. Leaps down with a big slam, but has this little ring around him, and he will throw down fireballs amidst other things. So yeah, a big slam there. That one ricocheted outwards. And then he charged up his legs, and now he's doing stomps. Every one of these little stomps can deal damage. And there's another one of those fireballs. And once I get him below a certain threshold of HP, he will summon adds into the fight. Aberrath's Elite. They are protected by a fire bubble, and when they go down, they leave this pool of burning ground down for the rest of the fight in this zone. But this is only phase 1 of the fight. Once Aberrath gets below half health, Aberrath will leave, and then a cascade of fire. And then we go into the Cloven Pass and work to the other side of the fight. Here we continue to get barraged with fire, and there's more goatmen. So we then enter the other arena, which is the exact same as the first one, but now the attacks are different. Why didn't that do anything? That should have been a barrage of fire coming from the back. So he still does his stompy thing. And now throw some fireballs. Summons adds again. Still does his normal fireball thing. Here's the bigger one. Huh. So he does the charge up for it. It's supposed to launch like a barrage of fire coming from an angle. So, yeah, there should be fireballs just like raining down on the screen, slowly pushing in the downward direction. But for some reason, it's not. Why are the bosses doing things not normal? Yeah, here it is again. It should be just like boop, 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 fireballs coming down. And they slowly move across the zone. Baffled, actually. That is another boss, though, that is, I don't know, feels like it's not doing things as intended. Maybe it indicates some changes coming to the boss in the Necropolis League? I don't know. It's kind of like the same as with Piety, not firing the balls in yesterday's video in Act 4. She normally like fires these big projectile orb things that take up a large portion of her boss fight arena, and she was doing the casting animation and just not doing it. Okay, I'm trying to see this again. Yeah. Like, he's doing the casting animation and the attack is not happening. So I did this boss fight twice now too, looking for something that just didn't work. Weird. It could just be some weird quirk with the like between league standard that I'm playing at the moment, and it'll be fixed once the patch comes out later today. Then up next is Rislatha, who we can't fight at first. We have to go down in this Chaos Degen Poison Caustic Ground nonsense and destroy the 3 Rislatha's nests that are down here in this mess, with enemies just spewing stuff out all over the place. Nasty chaos damage. Not easy to get chaos resistance even at this point of the game, but it starts to show up. But then we have Rislatha. Rislatha does lots of chaos damage stuff as well, launching this barrage of Chaos Degen and just launching little balls and these little spore pods that explode, and like there's chaos damage all over the place, as well as these little larva like minions. And then once you do a certain amount of damage to Rislatha, she will teleport across the room. And like the most damaging thing is like the brighter circles. You don't want to get hit by those as she's putting them down. Like you don't want to like stand in those. Like that's the most damaging part of this fight. Like you're going to be taking a constant bit of chaos or poison damage regardless. Just like be prepared for those barrages. Here one comes. Nope. Next, there it is. You normally like can move further away or close to her. She'll target where you're at with them and just go from side to side. Right here. Like she'll always target where you're at with it. It's probably on some kind of cooldown. There is Rislatha. Progressing through the riverways, you come upon the Animal Pack, who like summons 2 copies of himself. I don't know if you have to defeat all 3. Launch this barrage of almost like an explosive arrow mixed with a blast rain or artillery ballista kind of thing. Yeah, the 2 ads, maybe I killed them, but I think you just need to kill the 1 enemy. I guess that's the only like strange attack he does outside of summoning the 2 ads is these really delayed blasts there. In the southern forest, there is a giant monkey man named Hollow Skull, the Willing Host. He is an infested giant ape that... Oh, I killed him too quickly. Well, once you kill him, he releases the infested little thing that was inside him called the... what is that? Encephalophage. That does pulses of chaos damage. Another look here at Hollow Skull, the Willing Host. I think he will just, he beats his chest and summons a bunch of these parasites out of the ground. So, no matter what, fighting him is going to be crazy. Yeah, I mean, he can slam the ground a bunch of times, but yeah, beats his chest again. You get a bunch more parasites. So, yeah, when you kill him, the encephalophage, who like does this pulse that I guess infests you with parasites, something like that. A lot of nonsense going on there. Best just to keep swinging the sword and kill it, I say. In the Cavern of Anger, we have another large crustacean called Brine Crack. He has a little leaping attack. Does it land? Well, he goes underground and does this like repeated earthquake attack. Hey, I want to see. Okay, that does have a hit to it. I think that's all he does. He's got his little leap, and then the really dangerous thing is this. If you don't have physical damage mitigation, that rips very hard. Definitely gotta watch out for that one. Otherwise, pretty tame. It would appear that I missed a unique enemy in Act 6 that I did not know existed. So supposedly there is... Oh wow, I did not know about this. Defiled Proclamation. This used to be a prophecy thing. Summons the Stone Golem with the Dodre totems. It has these Dodre's torments that are launching extra projectiles, but otherwise it just looks like a stone golem. It'll slam the ground. Punch you. Yeah, it's got a ground slam that kind of ripples. I've never seen anything like that. Huh. Cool. That's a thing that exists. And the Act 6 boss, Sogoth, the Brine King, has a big ground slam and can cover himself in this cold dot aura, and then spawns lots of these little crabs called brine spawn. Big cleave. he switches forms. Like he's got a cold form here, and that's when the ads come, I guess. And then he switches to the fire form, and that's got the big ground slam business. And then we're back to the cold, and we get more ads happening. And then he's got a lightning. Oh, nope, back to fire. There's the cleave. Lightning. Also a cleave. Does he like change? I don't know. Like, does he change on hit? I don't know. I wonder if I could like knock him out of it. Well, I do know that 25% of his HP, he goes into an invulnerable phase and summons these walls of water in from the outside edge. And one little spout will start launching balls across there. And there's these little circles on the ground that explode, dealing cold damage. So, lightning means big slam that cascades outwards. Fire means cleave, or I guess like a basic cleave. And then the cold means ads come in from the outside. And each time he goes into his invulnerable phase, the wall of cold gets closer to the middle. So, and where you like end the phase is where he sits. So you kind of want to avoid the little cold snaps, but also avoid the bouncing projectile, which might change where it's coming from and going to once per down phase. But something you can do here, if you do not want him in the middle of the room because it's hard to see, you can lure him a little bit away from center, a little off center here. I went a little too far in there. This might be too far out of the way, but I'm going to try and face him here. If it's too far, he'll walk to the center, but if not, I just freed up the whole center of the room so I can actually see, and I don't have to dodge around the giant crab shell. Now, in the final phase, this is the smallest arena, but these little cold snaps continue happening, but at a slower rate than before, and I think it keeps just doing the same things. Can it spawn ads? I want to see. Like, can you spawn ads here in this final phase? I don't think it can. I don't think it can spawn ads in the final phase, the smallest arena. I think it just kind of slams and then has the extra cold snap nonsense happening. But there we go. That is Act 6 done. Before I get into Act 7, I'm going to go back and find the bosses I missed in Part 1. On the wiki, I found this page that details all of the unique monsters, and there's a couple that I missed in Act 2, even though I actually looked for a couple of them. And there's one in Act 4 that I didn't know existed. I found it! Combed through the entire massive Fell Shrine ruins to find this unique enemy called Soulmorn. So it has this weird kind of dash attack and also does this Molten Strike-like ability that hits you that launches these additional projectiles which land and can shotgun. It's really weird when it moves because it kind of just leaps forward. And it's a strange animation to it. That's really all it does. It has like this fizz-based Molten Strike-like attack. Ooh, that one was a lot more. So it can do a bigger one. That's crazy. But there is that enemy. Another one that is easy to miss due to the enormous size of the riverways. We have Targa, Beast Poacher, which has a blink arrow, throws traps, does a lightning arrow, has a barrage. The trap does what? What does the trap do? Oh, the trap again. Not a bear trap. It didn't bleed me. I kind of thought it might be a bear trap, given that he's a beast poacher. Fires lightning arrow, barrage, blink arrow, and some sort of trap. And dies. I tried to nerf myself, too, to not two-shot a unique enemy. Put on an old axe. Drop to a single link cleave. The other two that I missed in Act 2 are in the Dread Thicket, and I practically full cleared this zone. Ah, they're in the Lush hideout. I didn't go in the Lush hideout. There's Aiden, the Frenzied, and Nadia, the Soothing. And they have... one has a haste aura and one has a slowing aura. So they're both faster, I am slower, and then beyond that, they're just normal monkeys that do attacks. That's why I didn't find them, though, because I did not come into here. But there those are. That completes Act 2. So somewhere in the Combs Dream is a unique Rakango. I remember this existing a very, very long time ago in the game, but I have not seen it in what feels like years. I found it. It does exist. Called Triskariaki. So it is a Rakango that instead of just having one of these tail shooters it spits out, it has 3. And they seem to fire with a little bit faster projectile speed. Resists fire damage. It causes some damage, actually, if you get caught in the crossfire of all 3 of those. But that's what this is. I literally have not seen this thing in many years. But it still exists in the game, actually. And then it was just outside of the Torch Oak Grove that I covered last time. They were literally like 2 screens away from each other. Yeah, the normal Rakangos just have the one tail each with red projectiles instead of the blue ones. And then there is another in the Ascent between Act 4 and Act 5. This thing's got to be off the normal path too, because I swear I've never seen a unique enemy in here. I have found it. It is called the White Death. It has a Blade Vortex and a Sunder ability. It is far off to the left from the bridge. You normally push up and go up here. But if you push to the left, there is this enemy, the White Death. Looked like it had some kind of frost blink to it, actually. It doesn't leave any kind of chilled ground, but it kind of has an effect there underneath him. But yeah, he's just got the Blade Vortex, and he'll slap. Yep, and blink. He had that Sunder attack too. Maybe he doesn't do that very often, because he seems pretty preoccupied with slapping me. Okay, yep. Spawn more Blade Vortexes. Physical spell damage. It's probably all physical damage out of the White Death. There's also one on the Act 3 list called Gloomgut. This has been removed from the game. Finally, back into Act 7. There's a lot less of the little mini-bosses throughout the rest of the campaign, as there were in the first few acts. In the Fellshrine Ruins is an enemy called the Bundle of Woe. And it uses puncture, so it keeps bleeding me, and then it's like keeps splitting and spawning copies of itself and unraveling. It's quite crazy. Yeah, even more of them coming out here. Okay, and it goes down, and yeah, it also splits into more enemies. The map version kind of unravels into multiple forms of itself rather than just kind of splitting. And it seems like there's kind of an arena for this boss in the Fellshrine Ruins. like this big oval shaped area rather than it just randomly spawning like the one in Act 2. The next bosses are at the end of Malagaro's map. Now, no matter how experienced you are, it is always recommended to drop a portal outside of Malagaro's workshop, because this is a map. If I die in here, I would spawn back at the beginning of the map, which was somewhere way up here, and then I'd have to rerun this whole journey to get back here. So by dropping this portal, it allows me to die and just get right back into the boss. There are 3 bosses in here. It starts with Malagaro the Artist, that has this wind-up attack that has like 5 little circles behind him. He raises his hand right here, and then he always launches projectiles in the direction that he's facing. So he has a blink backstab attack that he just tried to do there, and like that combo ability, like a claw and then a kick. Yeah, there's his blink claw attack, and the claw kick, and then another claw stab. So it's like a 3-piece combo. So that he will just keep like repeating those attacks until you remove about 25% of his HP. Then he spawns the Black Death, Pain Unending. This enemy deals both chaos damage and lightning damage. So this ball that it launches leaves a trail of chaos degen, and then the lightning orbs that it launched will do lightning spell damage, and sometimes in a barrage, sometimes in a certain direction in a barrage of 3. So this is not as tough as Malagaro. But as we start damaging the Black Death, once it gets 50% of the way down, Malagaro comes back and continues trying to do his attacks, though you cannot damage him until the other boss is dead. So we'll keep fighting Malagaro, and then at 50% HP, he will spawn the Fidelitis Loyalty Undying, which does physical and lightning damage. So it has this ball lightning like attack. It can just like repeatedly attack this, just like kind of spam strikes right in front of it. Both of these mini bosses you really don't see anywhere else in the game. And then it gets a proximity shield as well for a time. And you got to get inside of that if you still want to damage it. But the same thing. Yeah, no damage unless I go in there. Malagaro starts attacking. But now, Malagaro will have another ability. He turns into this shade form and strikes from like 7 different directions. The way that I've always dealt with that attack is to run in like a circle about the size of this mat on the ground. And the changes in direction from running a circle that size, and it could change based on the movement speed. I have 20% movement speed on my boots, but just like the natural change in direction while you're running in that circle kind of naturally like dodges every single one of those attacks. Now there's other ways you could do it. Like you could try just like position yourself to where you're not going to get hit by them. But it's like never failed me. Just that tight circle. And if you stand still, you're going to get hit by all of them. And it does like chaos damage. You don't want to deal with chaos damage. So you can use the mat on the floor. Just run in that circle. Chamber of Sins level 2. There is a unique enemy called the Plague Wretch. It has an aura that causes chaos damage over time. And also throw a poison bomb here that also leaves some chaos degen on the ground, and it has a melee attack as well that I believe inflicts poison. Maybe not. It's just a lot of chaos damage, and chaos defense is harder to get in the game than others, so best not to risk too much with the Plague Wretch. Just expect to take a lot of Chaos Degen fighting him. Then in the Den, we have two unique enemies. This is where in the Den you fought the Great White Beast in Act 2, but it is now the Great White Bones. And there is the Bone Sculptor unique Necromancer with it. Now these are just basic enemies. They're given unique names for like the theming of it because this is a giant bone beast that has been resurrected by the Bone Sculptor. But these two enemies are not on the list. Now I wonder if I leave the Bone Sculptor alive, it heals Great White Bones, actually. That's cool. I didn't know that. Up next is Groost, Lord of the Forest. Now there's a bit of precursor to this boss fight. There are archers up on the balcony here that will occasionally launch arrows that come down in a barrage. Then there is the enthralled dire wolf that comes out first. It's just a basic wolf. It does some wolf things. It has a war cry that taunts you, but the more dangerous part at the moment is the barrages of arrows. Now, it took a while to kill the first wolf, and the enraptured Hellion has now come out. Enraptured Hellion also doesn't do too terribly much. It has a little, like, rearing ground slam ability that it does, but I need to kill those. So now we've got Groost out here. Groost throws a spear that does physical damage. And he also has a spear stab, but he does this ability that like summons power from this totem, and then he does a barrage of spear throws. If you get caught in that, that could be very deadly. But you also know when it's coming every time because he like summons it from the totem. So I get barraged by that, and yeah, that is not ideal. Now something you can do, you could use the decoy totem to like direct the attention for all of those barrages. He is very susceptible to the decoy totem and will throw all the spears right into the totem. Minions could also like draw his fire as well, but it's not with near the reliability of the decoy totem. But there, the stone golem also managed to pull that off. And then there'll constantly be other enemies joining the fight down here, but this is the main enemy that you need to take care of. And there we go. Stone golem just took all of those spear throws for me. You gotta keep moving though, because like the one thing that will really get you, if not the spear throws, it's the barrages of arrows that just will come and obliterate you. In the Dread Thicket in Act 7, we have a Chaos Golem called the Dreadstone. So it can summon totems that have temporal chains auras around them. So you don't want to be standing in those. It can also use a Sunder ability that inflicts corrupting blood when it hits. So having corrupting blood removal is definitely good there. But there's nothing else it does. It just continually spawns these totems though. You can destroy them, but also not a tough enemy. The real boss in the Dread Thicket is in the Den of Despair. And here we have Gruthkrul, Mother of Despair, who has a slam attack that targets a location and then covers it in this giant circle of physical degen, like fizz damage over time. It also has a roar ability that launches these projectiles from all over. Now, I'm deliberately not damaging this boss yet, because like those projectiles will target you. You want to move. But once you start damaging Gruthkrul, okay, there's a roar. Need to like reposition a little bit, not get taken by those. But here we go. Now I've done enough damage. I have a stack of Gruthkrul's Despair, which slows me. I take more damage and have reduced light radius. So as I get more stacks of this, as this fight goes on, it's going to get harder and harder to see in here. So that's why I delayed a little bit on this one, because it's going to keep reducing my light radius. Just really got to watch out for the fizz dot circles from the slam attacks. It always targets you, and it'll like cascade from the slam to you. So right there was one. And they go away after a little bit, but now I got 5 stacks of this Ruthkul's Despair, and yeah, this fight just gets scarier and scarier the longer it goes on. Decoy Totem, though, does wonders. Because look, it'll just fight the Decoy Totem instead of me and easily take it out. It's a giant bear, though, so you get like reared up and slammed on. You're gonna take some damage from that. And here's the unique boss in the Northern Forest. This is a devourer called Tunnel Worm, and it has like a 3-pronged chaos damage attack, and also spawns little copies of itself. This little unstable devourer. Those come around, and they also will explode. Oh yeah, there's 3 more of them just popped up there, and then like normal devourers, they'll go under and spawn underneath you. But yeah, when you kill them, they will pop after a little bit, and you don't want that. But otherwise, it's a normal devourer outside of the extra minions, and then the triple chaos. It doesn't have the big physical projectile attack that normal devourers do. On the second floor of the Temple of Decay, level 1, in the very center here is a unique enemy called Blightblade, who has the spectral throw. It also animates weapons. These green weapons here are created by it, and it also creates totems that inflict wither. They'll just cast the wither spell. So, a lot of blades. Blightblade, and I guess it's trying to deal chaos damage, wither you. I don't know if the animate weapons deal chaos damage, or they would deal fizz damage. But yeah, the Stone Golem is really good at drawing attacks here. But simple boss. In the Act 7 boss, we have Arkali, the giant spider. So this fight starts off with spraying this lightning bit, and there's even webs that can come down, which slow you. You'll get these 2 beams coming from the edges of the rooms that will target you, and you move out of the way. And then there's Arakali's gift. She throws these eggs, but if you let them hatch, spiders come out. So you can destroy the eggs and prevent the spiders from spawning, or instead you can focus on killing Arakali. So this lightning spray, like, will target you, or totem in that case right there. But without anything else to target, these will always target you. Then Arakali can decide, I'm going to move to a different corner of the room. So stay out of the spray. I'm pretty sure that shocks as well. Throws more eggs, some little chaos projectiles. Now, if you have a lot of chaos resistance, this fight, like, nothing will do damage, but I do not have chaos resistance. Minus 30 chaos res. Alright, and we're trying to get Arakali below half HP and phase to the next part of the boss fight, where it gets a little bit more complicated. But now we've got this barrage of these beams coming in. And in that case, the opening will target you. So now she has a bigger charge up and doesn't do the lightning spray. Instead, you get this barrage of chaos beams. The webs get spread out in more of a location rather than just dropped on top of her. So there's more webs. And there are these chaos beam like ball things that will get sucked in. So now she comes up over on the left side. We'll wait for this charge up. This is the most deadly thing the boss does right there. You don't want to get barraged by that. And then, yeah, these are coming in. And, yep, don't want to get hit by that attack. Like, there's so much stuff going on in this fight, you're gonna, like, get hit by something at some point. But, yeah, just watch for that. It's a really slow wind-up. Lots of chaos damage there. Most of the other stuff isn't going to do near as much. You don't want to be in the webs for too long either, because you'll get super slowed by that. Now, she starts stomping her feet, and these chaos balls start approaching her from the opposite side of the room. You want to try and dodge those. It's not the easiest thing to do, because they're just going to start coming at you. So there we go. In every single one of the corners she goes to, like, there's a corner at the top and the bottom. So now we're doing this again. Like, move back, keep an eye on them all. Oh, there's all those beams. I wasn't up close, though, so I couldn't get shotgunned by it. Alright, we're in the last 25% here. Okay, stomping the ground again. We'll just move back so I don't get hit by those. Decoy totem directed that beam for me. Alright, we're moving again. Now this fight could have gone much faster if I just really relied on the decoy totem, like right here, and just like wailed away on the damage. Just sidestep things, but wanted to show off as much of that fight as I could. Then into Act 8. The Act 8 list is also incomplete on this wiki page. There's no Dodre, there's no Tolman, and there's a group of zombies that's a unique enemy in the sewers. So here we are. There are these 5 lingering aberrations. They're just like normal zombies, though they have unique name cards. Ow. So much stuff in here. But once all of them are killed, it spawns into a towering aberration that does an earthquake attack. So that's like this big wound up delayed blast right there. Other than that, I don't think it has anything super special about it. It's kind of fast, does an earthquake, but otherwise it's kind of just a zombie. You don't want to get hit by the earthquake because it's an earthquake. Big fizz damage with that. Into the cauldron for the next Dodre fight. This fight is very confusing. So we're starting off with green. There's different colors, right? So green spawns zombies. And when you kill said zombies, you gain a stack of green effluent, meaning you deal less damage per stack. So every time you kill the zombies, you're stacking yourself with an enfeeble curse. So now, if I want to damage Dodre, who is throwing fizz projectiles, warping around the room, like, I have no damage anymore because I've maxed out on green. But I can hit this valve and refresh the room and change it to a different type. Now we've got the purple one, which is the temp chains room. Now in here, these little spinning cyclones will slowly spawn more and more throughout the area. If you touch it, you're going to take some chaos dot, but also take a stack of purple effluent, which is like a stack of temp chains. And it's just going to make you slower and slower the more of them you get on you, till the point that it gets painful and you probably die. So we'll hit it again. Probably the easiest one to actually deal with is the red room. So now there are these exploding balls around the room. If I get hit by one of those, I get a red effluent stack, and I take 10% increased damage per stack of that. So that's a lot of extra damage. So use the decoy totem at the moment to draw fire from Dodre. And I'm still only at 5 stacks. Maneuver around this room. Oh, now I'm up to 8. I might want to hit this valve again. And we're going to go back to green. But now we know I don't want to kill the zombies, actually. So what Dodre's doing, she launches projectile spell attacks, will blink across the room, and there's like most of the times in that little barrage of 3 or a single projectile that results in all of those balls exploding. Now, if you get really close, still got a little tongue attack, but you kind of want to stay away from Dodre if possible, because you can kind of get barraged by some of these projectiles, which you don't want to do. Now, purple room, it's fairly simple. You just try and do your best to avoid the little cyclones, but the longer the room stays in a certain state, the more hectic it slowly gets. So, like, it seems like guaranteed that after a certain duration, you're going to get like really ramped up on those debuffs. So now that I think I've talked through everything, we'll kill Dodre and move on. So here we have a split crossroads. We can go left or right. First, I'm going to go left because there is a unique boss out in the Grand Promenade. I almost never come in this area. Okay, here is, what's his name? Ondar the Betrayer. He has a leap slam, and what is that skill called? It's not Reeve, it's not Reap. Lacerate. It's doing a lacerate attack that normally those will bleed, but it just kind of has caustic ground around him. So he leaps. Chaos Degen, leap literally all over the place, and some lacerate physical attacks. I don't think they're bleeding, though. I have not gotten bled by any of the lacerates. The only really bad part of this, for me at the moment, has been the Chaos Degen, but I'm not built for Chaos. Like, I've got, or at least while I have my Fortify up, I got 1500 armor. It says it's pretty good. Up next is the Tolman fight. Now, this begins by spotting hordes of zombies around the room. Now, these zombies are kind of important because Tolman can detonate corpses. So, what we're doing here is covering the arena in corpses for Tolman to be able to explode. Now, after a while, Tolman will get released here, and there's this thing on the ground that's kind of chasing, right? And when that touches me, it will explode. And we don't want that. Okay, it spawned new ones. And then there's that a rune thing he puts on the ground. That does damage. But the little things on the ground are what detonate the corpses. So if one of them is touching you while you're standing on the corpse, that's when it detonates. So if I'm over here, and where's another one of those? So let's not be on a corpse. Now it's doing nothing to me if I'm not standing on the corpse. So it's not just like these things are coming for me. It's like combined with a corpse on the ground will detonate it. And then there's that physical blast that Tolman can do. Otherwise, he's just a zombie that will do zombie hits. So the like really dangerous thing here is to understand about these. And there's also, you would think, yeah, okay, that's Chaos Degen, even though it's red. That's from a Desecrate. Then there is the Gimling Legionnaires. There are 7 of these guys. And this is hard to explain because this is just a lot of madness. The best way to deal with them is to jump on top of them and kill them as quickly as possible. I know one of them is going to be doing some fireball spam one of them is going to start doing some Glacial Cascade. And like the second I proc them, like they go off. Yeah, there's 2 Glacial Cascades. We got some Fireball. These 2 are trying to melee me. Is there anything else going on here? It seems like that's about it. We got 3 of them doing the Glacial Cascades. I got taunted. These guys, the melee guys, I don't know what they're doing. And there's some big thing that happened over here. This kind of like an earthquake thing. Maybe that is from the captain. Let's see. I don't know. Like what is causing that? Try to see. Where's that big attack coming from? It's coming from these guys. These guys drop it like a trap on the ground or a mine and like detonate it after a bit. Which is strange. But, oh! Now they're launching multiple projectiles. I guess they like scale as the others die or something because the AoE on the Glacial Cascades also got bigger. It's a very strange fight. Hard to actually know what's going on there. There's just a lot of spell spam in the end. But they're not super strong. Like, you can cut through them pretty quickly with almost any build. Here in the Imperial Fields, we have the next boss. It is a scarecrow called the Effigy of Fear. And it fires crows at me. Oh, spam of crows. Okay, they hurt, actually. They ignited me as well. It's very slow. Doesn't really seem to do much. It's got a stick. And yeah, when it spins it, yeah, that's when it starts spamming down the crows. That's pretty gnarly. And I think that's all this guy has going on for him. This pitchfork. Yep. And his crows. And then he explodes into crows. Next, Dawn, Harbinger of Solaris. There's a lot going on here. So there's this giant orb in the middle of the room that does its own things. And then we have Dawn, Harbinger of Solaris, doing his own things. So right now he's just doing a melee attack. I haven't damaged him yet. The orb in the middle will put some fire degen on the ground. So we've got a Scorching Ray out of Dawn. Still just doing melee attacks. And he's got a Blade Fall with Lingering Blades that get up. So he's got an animate weapon. Almost some kind of shield throw that splits into multiple directions as well. Oh, and he's got, what are these called? Divine Flares, I think. Yeah, I don't know what that ability is. It almost looks like a Spectral Shield throw. Just with, like, more straight lines rather than the shattered shield pieces. It's called Divine Flares. Yes, Divine Flares. Yeah, almost like a shield throw. And then the Blade Fall summons all of the extra minions. Lots of fire stuff on fire stuff on fire stuff going on. And the fire orb doesn't do too much to change the fight. The Scorching Ray is really dangerous because that's going to cause fire exposure and cause you to take extra damage from all the other fire sources. You want to try and stay out of the flares. And that shield throw doesn't really do much. And the Blade Fall is more of a worry for the animate weapons. In the Solaris Concourse, we have Regulus, Sun's Herald, who has a Fiery Ground Slam. And he has this ability to attack the ground, launching magma orbs in all directions. Maybe, like, if he wants to do it again. There we go. And launching magma orbs in all directions. Most of the time, he's just going to do a basic attack. Or the ground slam, it looks like it's more rare for the magma orb. Maybe it's got a cooldown to it. But all fiery stuff from this guy as well. Not quite as complicated as Dawn. Next up in the bathhouse, we've got Hector Titusius, Eternal Servant. Blocks projectiles while charging. So he has a big slam. Most of what this guy does is this really slow shield charge across an area, and he launches these little red projectiles out as he goes. They kind of split, and I want to say it's a spell damage, but can never be super sure. I would imagine that's a spell damage. It's kind of like an on-step thing. He's got that big slam. Beyond that, I don't think he's got much. Like most of what he does is the slow shield charge until he hits something all the way across the room, and kind of chasing him down to fight him can be really annoying. That's more of what I know about this fight, but he does launch little red orbs. He has a big slam. Beyond that, not much going on with him. Pools of Terror. Fight Yugal. Yugal is some kind of creature. Has kind of a slow charge, but also this big jump, like water attack kind of thing. Got a little tongue thing. It tries to do some bites. That actually does some pretty thick damage. There's the slow crawl attack and then the quick leap slam. Kind of strange. But like the big dangerous ability he has is this right here, this big charge up slam. You really don't want to get hit by that. Now this fight also gets crazier the longer it goes on. So there are these little balls on the ground that are going to chase you like the entire fight, pretty much. I think you might be able to get far enough away from them that they will like go away, but those balls can stack up on top of each other, and they deal a cold damage over time. It makes you fearful, is what it says. So, when a bunch of those get out, and now there's two here, and they can stack on top of each other. So now, if I get in there, I'm taking 2 stacks of that cold degen, which you get a bunch of those little orbs floating around will kill you real quick. There's also these totems that can come up, and they kind of launch these frost bolts that will explode after a while. After a third of Yugal's HP, a bunch of reflections will hop out of the pools. So they're kind of the same thing. They don't have most of the abilities that he does, but once all of the ads are gone, Yugal will return with his same ability set, and now we'll get more of the totems popping up more frequently, and more of these degen balls. So the longer you spend in this fight, the more crazy the arena gets, and you probably don't want to get barraged when those frost bolts go off from the totems. So, decoy totem here also does wonders. It can just kind of face tank him for you to give you room to be able to get up and attack, and you don't got to worry about anything. Decoy totem does that in so many fights throughout the campaign. It's a bit harder to pull off in maps because the damage gets a little crazier, and you have to scale totem life if you really want it to survive after a certain point. But now you can see how many of these balls are stacking up. Like, that's some degen. And I have 274 life regen per second. That is over 10% life regen per second. And I have 78 cold res. And I took visible degen from that. So like I built this character to survive and kind of show what the bosses are doing, not show you how to die to them necessarily. So like most characters that come in here that would run through that amount of balls that I did instantly hits the floor. Because there was like 10 of them there. Like that's a lot. And that's a lot of degen. But ooh, I got hit by the big attack from Yugal. Like with 20 fortify up with all my resistance, like that's a hit. Like big hit. But where Gravicius was the first time through here, we now have Nightbringer Lucius. Nightbringer. So, kind of similar to Regulus in the Solaris Concourse, just another enemy out here. It puts down these beams of cold. They can stack on top of each other, I guess. A Galvanic Flare, it's called. It also has a, it's not called Ice Slam. It's not a Glacial Hammer either. Ice Crash. He's got an Ice Crash ability. Most of what he does is just kind of little pot shot hits and put these beams down. They're only going to hit me if I stand in a single location. Got a Shield Charge. That hit pretty good. I guess I really kind of didn't give him much opportunity if he wanted to use his Ice Crash again. But he does have that in his tool bag. Lunaris Temple level 2. We have Dusk, Harbinger of Lunaris with the Moon Orb. I think the Moon Orb is going to target me and then put this swirly black Degen on the ground. That's what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, well, Dusk is launching these projectiles, and then he has a charge-up projectile. They split in two, so you can kind of just stand and take it, but the charge-up ability is also a dash. It's like a charge dash thing with a bow. So it launches a projectile and charges behind it, and then there's a bigger barrage that's possible. It's actually kind of a cool ability. I would hope it did a lot of damage if we had access to that as players. But yeah, this Moon Orb is not doing its normal thing. There's normally this swirly black Degen stuff in here as well. But, it's definitely not the first time things have just seemed off while on this run through here. So, I mean, if it's just Dusk, it's not that bad. The Moon Orb's definitely not going to make it too much crazier. Just make some areas you can't stand in, but sure, there's the Moon Orb. Act 8 boss, Solaris and Lunaris. You can start fighting either one of them. I typically go for Solaris first. They're kind of fighting each other at the beginning of the fight, but once you start damaging one of them, they're going to get angry at you. So then Lunaris transforms into the Moon Orb and has that barrage of ice that kind of spirals inward and culminates on a central point. And then Solaris out here has this kind of shield charge beam and a frontal spear attack, the shield charge thing. But the big thing is when... Well, Solaris will do it again. It's like a big charge up. This right here, those you want to get behind. There's a little safe quarter directly behind Solaris. Right here, that spear gets thrown and then 90-degree angle splits off of it. Almost the entire fight with Solaris just continually move behind her and it's fine. Now, they swap places and we have Lunaris out here throwing these projectile crescent moon things. And now the Sun Orb is up here covering portions of the ground with a burning Degen, as well as the ability we saw in the Dawn fight with just the single strip of Fire Dot. I guess it'll trade back and forth. So Lunaris also has a more charge up ability where she spins and launches several of these projectiles around, a little combo attack, but nothing near as dangerous with Lunaris as when she's in the Moon Orb. The big danger in this fight definitely comes from getting barraged by those icy rocks and getting hit by that charged up spear attack. So you kind of got to watch for it. This, I mean, yeah, it does some tick damage, but being stand-in right here, that killed me. You get hit by that big spear attack that does tons of damage, but then you get barraged by those rocks when they spiral into the center on top of each other. You get hit by a bunch of them all at once. Not an uncommon way to die in this fight. you like get caught up in like this combo like that. I got hit one hit there, and it took like a big chunk of my life with my Fortify, which I imagine was up. I don't know for sure. But even like the little side projectile, like that took 25% of my health. So you wind up in that with this bad news. Bad news. Like that's the biggest thing to avoid. Aside from like coming in here without capped cold res or fire res. Having spell suppression definitely helps. That lessens the damage of both of those, I believe. I'm pretty sure that counts as a spell spear attack, as well as the falling barrages of the ice. Pretty sure that's both spell damage. Alright, we switch back to Lunaris again. And, yep, we've got the Burning Ground. But the Burning Ground can't really phase me because I got crazy life regen. So, if you have enough recovery like that, and fire resistance, you can kind of tank that. But yeah, these projectiles, I've never had them like deal crazy damage to me ever in any setup and build that I have. Like this is the by far easier part of the fight. So then we get Solaris back out here for the final phase. And I guess we get a more difficult version of Solaris for having him out here last. The sun orb effects are happening with these little beams. And probably a similar thing happens were you to leave Lunaris for last. You'd probably have to fight Lunaris while the rocks were falling. But either way, like, this is what the fight is. Two big things. Get behind that spear attack. Don't stand in the spiraling inward rocks. Pretty much every unique enemy in Act 9 has a quest kind of attached to it. So it's a lot harder to miss the fights here. With the exception of one, there's actually a purpose to all of the others. Completely forgot to do Cruel Lab. I'll go do that now. Probably not going to do Merc Lab in this video. So what do we have this time? We've got Sword and Shield. And it looks like conduits, just like last time. So there are the conduits that will buff with lightning, fire, and cold damage. And now he's got this big slash attack. It's not quite as fast as when he has dual swords, but the slash attack right there, that is probably the deadliest thing that Izaro can do. And there's still the barrage of the little fire spells from the goddess on his back. And want to try and remove these conduits so that he doesn't take them with him to the next fight. So, I had them all turned off so he doesn't get buffs. Round 2, we have the golems. The golems are weird. I can't say honestly I fully understand what's going on there. I just dodged that slash. I know, like, if Izaro like gets close enough to the golem, he will absorb it and he'll get extra cold, fire, or lightning damage depending on the golem. But it's not like it just walks out slow. Like, it has to like get sucked up by Izaro. That one was really close. It's strange. Oh, no buffs for Izaro, but now starting a Cruel Lab, we'll have some kind of random trap arrangement in the final room. So that can make things really crazy, and now Izaro has this green circle that he spawned around him. If I was standing in that, when it went off, it would teleport me to the other green circle in the room. So I'm gonna try it, like, it's going to warp me, and that could be really bad, because you're not going to know exactly where you're at, what direction you need to run in, and you could be standing on traps and whatnot. So it gets pretty crazy. Like, getting warped like that could put you in a really bad spot and get you killed really easily, because these traps do damage based on a percentage of your life. It's not like a fixed damage trap type thing. So the traps can be really scary, but Izaro does his same normal attacks. Try not to get hit by the big slash. Not too bad. No bosses in Act 9 until we get to the desert. First up, we got Shikari. Giant scorpion. Can go underground and leap out. Has a big tail swipe. Does physical and chaos damage. And then there is also a big charge up. Slam forward right there like that. You can kind of see it building up. Now it also can leave little caustic ground puddles down. The big thing, you just don't want to get hit by the big tail slam. That is the most damaging attack that Shikari does, and I'll get hit by it once. Yeah, that's some damage. So once you do enough damage, Shikari will move underground into this very narrow corridor, and then it will do a tail slap to, like, it launches like a sunder in the direction targeting you. So it like targets in that direction, and if I'm ahead of Shikari, she'll move. But if I'm behind, oh, I guess I was close enough. She's still moving. So back here, it launched. Okay, I guess it's just going to keep moving forward. You used to kind of have to stay ahead of it. And then we move forward again. It's got to do at least one of those attacks before it'll get off. The last little bit's the hardest because you get slowed by the quicksand. So if you're just running on this flat sand right here, no issue. But there was the swirly sand that was right there just a second ago that slows you. So that's in here too. I'm building up quicksand and I'm being slowed. So it slowly comes off while I'm running around in the other areas. But we start phase 2 of the fight. This time, she goes underground a bit more. Still has the big tail swipe and the tail slam. But then we'll get to the point where she wants to go under and just keep attacking over and over. So here we go. Go under, pop up, go under, pop up, go under, and keeps targeting you. Go under, pop up 4 times, and then it's just back to the normal attacks. Once we get to like 40% HP, yeah, should be there. Ooh, I got a big caustic strike on me that said it was going to last like 14 seconds. So, but now Shikari's in the middle of the room, just doing those tail slams, trying to attack you from range, and adds spawn so you can rebuild your flasks up. And then she comes back out, and we go back through the cycle of attacks. We're going underground, popping up, and the big tail slam, a little claw grab, tail swipe, and you can maneuver around the fight fairly easily to stay out of getting damaged by that. But I played this game a lot. I'm really good at doing stuff like that. In the Boiling Lake, we have the Basilisk. Has a big fire breath attack that arcs and some little fire spray from the tail. But the big dangerous part of the Basilisk is that you can get put to stone if you look at its eyes. I guess I wasn't looking. Maybe I was turned enough. I'll try it again to get stuck there. But you don't want to stand in the fire breath. A little barrage. Okay. Yeah, you have to be looking at the eyes, actually. And now I'm turned to stone, petrified for a number of seconds, and then I can move again. You can get pretty unlucky with that and wind up getting big fire blasted. And the eyes can freeze your totems and your minions as well. So, scary part of the boss, for sure. Otherwise, not much going on there. Then there is Boulderback. Boulderback's one of these charging bull things, and he can summon these little rocks under his feet. Oh, and there's a fizz aura there. So there's a little earthquake, and yeah, there's these little boulder rocks that come rolling around. I think the rocks are generally like, oh, he enrages as well. I guess once he gets below half HP, yeah, he gets extra speed. and having this gigantic stone golem. Yeah, I want to watch out for the rocks. The rocks can hurt. But aside from that, there's the earthquake, but the extra life enraging stone golem is a little worse than that is, as can quite often be the case in Path of Exile. Go attack my decoy totem, please. Yeah, there we go. Next, we've got General Adis. This is a very difficult fight to navigate. Now, he does some like basic hammer attacks, but he has a big earthquake attack that releases on a delay. And then at the edges of this room are all of these lightning coils. And they kind of light up and to signify where they're going to go. And then they connect across the room. And if you get hit by any of these, you just get super slowed. Very badly slowed, as well as being shocked. So it's quite a lot. It's very hard to like see it and react in time to dodge them. And then there's a big charged up lightning explosion. And now there is the big charged earthquake attack that kind of blocks off a large portion of the arena. And that does both physical and lightning damage. So, like, there's the normal earthquake, sure. If you get hit by that, okay. But if you get, like, repeatedly pulse hit by lightning earthquake monstrosity over there that takes up the whole half of the room and pulses 5 times, that's kind of obnoxious. Especially when you're getting shocked and slowed and you gotta, like, try and read the room to dodge the little lightning beams. Like, it's a rough fight. So you either come in here with, like, if you're playing it hardcore at least, come in here with enough damage to just delete this dude. Or, I don't know. Like, it's a rough fight. Okay, there was another big slam. So I need to, like, move to the other half. And always pulses 5 times there. He does this little charge up thing. So, like, the issue with this fight, like, is more the lightning beams than it is fighting the boss. General Adis isn't that bad. But when you combine it with the room, it's a gnarly fight. Then we've got Garukan, Queen of the Winds. Now, Garukan has a bunch of physical attacks, a lunge attack there, but spawns tornadoes around the arena here. And it even can go invisible, spawning more tornadoes that deal physical damage over time while you're in them. So, Fizz dots are hard to deal with because armor can't protect against them. You need physical damage reductions, so something like endurance charges or physical damage reduction in other ways, or just tons of life regeneration. It's a little harder to do. This fight, it's harder to like deal with the damage over time, I think, than dealing with the attacks from the boss. But then there's Kira, Servant of Garukan. Just has a spear, does some basic spear attacks. Nothing crazy here. These enemies can spawn inside of crazy Fizz Degen craziness down there. But I was lucky to not have to deal with it this time. Garukan does some pretty like big attacks, but it's really about trying to avoid, like I mentioned, the Fizz dot plus the big hits that she can deal. Like, that's the real issue, and you got to manage your space. And if you need to run and get yourself in a safe spot, do it, because eventually she'll come to you. Like, you don't really got to worry about chasing after this boss. You want to play the space in the arena and then fight on your terms rather than hers. Alright, then we get the second phase here, and sure enough, this time, yeah, there's a giant tornado thing there, but Kira's not doing much. You got the sand Goliaths here that'll throw stuff and do ground slams. But then again, lots of little tornadoes. Then, like, the combos of the physical attacks are nothing compared to the tornadoes. And I might be making it look easy. I don't know. I've done this so many times. Like, it's kind of easy to dodge a lot of these things for me. It's just trying to deal with the tornadoes. Into the belly of the beast, the only unique enemy in Act 9 that is not tied to some sort of quest is in here. Kind of tucked away back in a dead end somewhere. And I found the dead end where we have Drool Maul. Now, he has that big Sunder attack. I don't know if he spawned that Carnage Pillar. Yes, he did. Ooh, that's a nasty attack. That does Corrupting Blood if you're standing in that area. And he uses Unearth to spawn a corpse to create the Carnage Pillar. And Carnage Pillar sends out balls. He spawns a pack of magic enemies. Okay. I don't think I've ever let him live long enough to see that happen. Like, I knew he had the big slam attack, but... Yep, those red balls that come out of the things he summons. So wait, we're detonating dead now? Oh, maybe it's the pillars. Carnage pillars. Drool Maul got some crazy abilities there. I don't think we see him in any of kind of maps or in-game. This is the only place he shows up. Chavron, fight number 3. We've got some little lightning tornadoes going around the room. She summons this gigantic lightning ball, a little shade of Brutus to do a slam, a little bit more barrage with the lightning bolts. And this giant orb continuously zaps if you're in it. And the Stormburst ability, once she like sends enough of those out, like they all explode. So you can get really shotgunned by that if you're not careful. But then everything in here is spell damage. Every bit of it is lightning damage as well. Still got the little books with the storm calls. And when those go off, she still teleports. So that can catch you really off guard as well. Then she goes up into the sky, summons some adds, these little lightning orbs. Not too dangerous, those guys, but can get you some flasks back. Really mostly scared of the projectile spam. Now, she's going to teleport like mid-casting that, and she could land on top of you and start casting those lightning orbs on top of you. You don't want that. That's bad news. Kind of got to be unlucky for that to happen, though. Decoy Totem's not going to stand a chance here. Like, it will get destroyed by spell damage super easily. Teleports, now you're here. Whoa! I didn't even see you charge the beam up. It's just fire it. The Brutus Slam's not too large of an AoE. That's fairly easy to dodge. Now, I could probably just like tank through a lot of this stuff and just do damage, but try to avoid as much as I can. She teleported again up to here. And finish her off. There we go. One down. Maligaro, fight number 3. He's got these projectiles that kind of like a boomerang will bounce. I guess boomerangs don't bounce off the wall. But he still has that triple combo attack from in Act 7. The claw, click, kick, and dash right there. Like that. Still does that same thing. He summons all these swords in the ground that like launch up out of the ground. And then, yeah, there's that projectile attack, the blink claw attack as well. So some things that we've seen before, some things that we haven't. Yeah, there's the blink claw, and we don't want to be in those swords. Projectiles bounce off the wall, the triple combo, another sword, move out of those. And that's all we have going on for the first bit of this. Now, at a certain HP threshold, he's going to disappear, and clones of himself are going to appear instead. So, right now. So this is a clone. This isn't the real one. And like now there's multiples of them that will like try and do all these attacks that he has. So it gets a little crazy. You don't know exactly which one is the actual boss. It's probably this one right here with the most HP left, because he comes in last, and then you just finish him off here. Fairly simple fight compared to the other two. Right, for Dodre, round 3, a lot of the same stuff we've seen from Dodre. Physical spell attacks and vulnerability, temp chains, and feeble curses. So right off the bat, launching projectiles that she was at the beginning of Act 8. So we've got one totem up here, and then every so often it will pulse. And even if I'm not caught in that, I will get hit by the curse. So there's 3 of them now. Like, I'm out of the range of the one up there, but even though it pulses, I now have a stack of the different things. The temp chains, the vulnerability, and the enfeeble. The only way to get rid of them is to destroy the totem of that type, and now I've lost the vulnerability, and then this one will get rid of the temp chains, and then this one will get rid of the enfeeble. But now we already have another of the vulnerability ones back up. And then it just continues. Okay, she transforms into the larger version of herself, and like the very first fight, starts launching the projectile balls instead of the forward barrage of projectiles. Then she changes back, goes in the middle, and she resummons all totems, but then does 13 waves of this physical spell damage attack that speed up a little bit on the last 3 of those. If you have spell suppression, you can take that pretty easily, or good physical mitigation like I have at the moment with the Fortify as well. And you can't get more than 5 stacks of all of these curses. So once it's at 5, like you're stuck there. You can either ride it out or destroy the totems at that point, because I think the temp chains one's probably the worst because it slows you, makes it harder to react to the attacks. But a lot of like slow, like stutter stepping circles around Dodre, it's fairly easy to not get hit by anything there. Just knowing that you can run and hide behind the totems as well during the like screech phase. The one thing you gotta worry about there is destroying those totems with like crazy damage explosions all over the place, leaving you vulnerable to getting hit by that screech because the totem won't be there to block it. So you can destroy them before that attack finishes. So now we get the culmination of Act 9, where aspects of all 3 of those bosses get combined into the Depraved Trinity. So we've got the little swords on the ground. There is a ball of degen, but if I run on that, it's not taking degen. I get the purple effluent that is causing me temp chains. We've got the lightning books. We've got the explodey Dodre balls. So lots of stuff going on. Now there's a red puddle that does the same thing. It gives me the little stacks of the vulnerability curse. I just don't want to be on that. And you can get hit by that orb when it lands. That hurts a lot. Not just being in it is bad. Getting hit by it to begin with is pretty bad. Launched a purple one just up there. I don't think there's any enfeeble ones in this fight. Got to deal with that lightning thing, which it always splits in 3. And there's usually a safe spot open somewhere for that, even though it does have some pretty decent AoE. And again, I'm just kind of slowly circling around the room, picking my time to attack. And don't want to get blown up by that. I got a stack of red. There's a lot to pay attention to in this one. Okay, phase 1 done. Now, these unholy aberrations come out, and they hit so hard with physical damage. These things are nasty. Actually, like, I'm more afraid of them, honestly, than the Depraved Trinity. Like, always have been, because those things will just come out and smack you in the face and make you feel it real good. Having evasion is good to deal with that, but, like, big, high armor is, like, the only reliable way. But now, we're getting this red lightning ball, kind of like Chavron was doing. But yeah, now it's red. It doesn't give stacks of effluence, it just does physical damage, and it hurts a lot. So don't exactly want to be in that either. And they linger around the edge of the room. I got shocked there, and I got 2 stacks of purple, so now I'm slow. Now we've got 4 of these in the room, so it's kind of closing the arena in a little bit on me. And look at how big those hits are. These like white enemies that just roll in, just like whack, whack, whack. They'll get you real good. Big slam there. Okay, these do eventually go away, but add more. But seeing all of the different things that can happen in the fight, just gotta keep dodging all the things, picking the times to attack. Don't put yourself in bad situations. Take your time. Like, don't try and rush this fight, and you'll make it through. As long as you, like, everything has, like, a delayed thing going on. Like, even those balls, like, the least delayed thing is the puddles, right? Everything else, like, it shows you what it's going to do, and then it does it. So you always have time to look at what's going on, react to it, I need to move there, and then keep going on about the fight. So just pick the good spots. Don't panic, because I mean there's a lot of things that keep getting thrown at you in the fight, but it's really not that hard. Act 10, almost done. Only a few left. First up here we've got Plague Wing, which shows up after you defeat those enemies, and is a Kitava's Herald that does chaos damage. So it did a little dash attack there that left some caustic ground, threw some little poison balls that did some caustic ground, like spraying chaos degen everywhere. Now in melee range, it's got some melee attacks that definitely poison, and those are big hits. Those are some big poisons. But this boss does not have a lot of HP either. It's a pretty simple boss fight. Now, somewhere in the middle of the square here should be another version of the Matriarch somewhere. There she is, the Rotten Matriarch. Again, out here to throw some magma orbs. Same thing as before. Magma orbs. And really has kind of got nothing else. Still just the same thing, just now named the Rotten Matriarch instead. Same boss, same location, third different time, right there. In the control blocks, we have Valinta, who does lots of physical spell damage, a little barrage there, and probably the most dangerous thing. I mean, there are these beams that chain around the room, and you can dodge those. But there's this triple attack that pulses inward. Now, if you get caught really close to Valinta, when she does that, that gets really scary. She can also enrage herself, has that like Sunder Barrage, a big slam as well. And then once we get about 30% of the HP down, she will disappear, and then we have an ad phase. And a couple of these barrages of physical spells across the room. These are test subjects that, like the Noble Dead on the beach at the beginning of Act 6, will just like launch souls into the air. But yeah, here I'm gonna get hit by that. Oh, see how much that hurt? That's a nasty one. So, like, I think that's the biggest thing to watch out for. The thing I've seen the most deaths on in this fight is this triple attack being close to Valinta. Like, yeah, if you stand in these beams, that's a lot of damage. The kind of blazing salvo thing doesn't do too much. Like, That's the big killer right there, and maybe that big slam, but it's nothing compared to the triple attack, without a doubt. All right, then ad phase number 3. I like to run kind of big circles around the room, so like even if I do get hit by some of these, I won't get hit by them all. It's not like super overpowered that it's going to just obliterate you, and if that attack is what's killing you, like everything in this fight would kill you. So that isn't really as scary as it looks. There's no preparing for what direction she's going to come flying in with those bomb spam, but pretty easy fight. In the Desecrated Chambers, we have Avarius, the reassembled, who has one of the nastiest physical attacks in the game. This slash right there rips so hard. Like, it is like a devastating fizz hit. Big wind up slash. And then we have these beams that do physical degen that will radiate different like patterns throughout the room. So you want to try and avoid those. You can kind of keep it at range if possible. Like, you just definitely don't want to get hit by one of those and then get slapped by that big fizz slash, because that is just like sure death. Ow! Like, even with the fortify, it is a mean hit. Might be able to stay in the middle. We've got a guard here. You got a barrage of attacks when the big red circle comes out in front of him. There's just the different patterns of the degen and the big slap. That's really all this fight comes down to. And that degen lasts for like 2 seconds when you step into it. So it's not like once you get out of it, you're fine. No, it sticks to you for a second. And now I'm out of life flasks. This is where you portal out and not die. Alright, go back at this. Part of it is I don't have enough damage, and part of it is I probably shouldn't have let him move to the middle of the room and tried to keep him up at the top side. Ow. Luckily I got a panicked life flask on at the moment. Instant recovery on low life. But Avarius, mean guy. If you can have it so that you're not super worried about the fizz degen or the big slap, like if I was wearing a determination right now, that big slap would hurt way less. If I had endurance charges, the big slap would hurt way less, and the fizz degen would hurt way less. So there's definitely ways to build around that fight to be safer. But intimidating cry and whatever this is not built to survive that fight. Got a massive shrine. Makes my cleave AoE almost to the edge of the screen. It's cool. But now for the final fight with Kitava. Now Kitava has fire breath. Will take about a third of the room. Still got the clenched hand. The hand into the ground. And then it has a laser beam now. Kind of charges up. You can see it coming on his eye. And then still the sweeps across portions of the room. And you kind of have to gauge, is he going left, the middle, or the right on the fire? Here comes a beam. Okay. Let's keep attacking. Another beam. The beams are fairly easy to dodge. The hard part is the fact there's a lot more minions being spawned in this room. There's fire, and you've still got to kind of keep an eye on where the degen is, and then what Kitava's doing. This fight kind of just overwhelms you with stuff happening. It's a lot. It's a lot to pay attention to. Made it through the first phase. On to Heart Phase Part 1. And just kind of go after it here. We've got a Champion of the Feast, but if I focus that, I'm not dealing damage to the heart. And these enemies all go away when the heart goes down. Except for the two that were like normally being spawned, these Kitava's Heralds. Alright, round 2 of the fight. We got hand in, ground. We got a backhand sweep, and so I can't, there's no room for me to be up there. Fire on the left side of the room. Clenched hands, gotta dodge the big circle. There's a beam. Okay, keep damaging. Another beam. Oh, that one was really far back. I didn't know if it was going to be far or close. But I know he was turned. I know he was going left on that one. Left side of the room for the fire. It dissipates pretty quickly as well. Another hand in ground. Sweeping over here. So I got to run to this side. Beam. Oh, I dove right into it. Another fire on the left side. Okay. We let Sin go. We're still not done with this phase. More beams. That's fine. I'm okay with the beams. And in ground. That's where everything goes crazy. Looks like right side of the room with the fire. Been on the dots. Clenched hand. Okay, big blast. Kind of find the safe spot between all the red circles. Also spell damage if you go spell suppression and fire res, so that doesn't hurt like at all. Another beam. Thomas Herald's just like barraging stuff from everywhere. Oh, now there is this thing up here kind of blocking this whole side of the room off with just like this fizz barrage, kind of like a lightning spire trap over there. Okay, hands went out. More big red circles to dodge. Back to the beam. And the reason that these Kitava's Heralds keep spawning is so that you have a way to regenerate your flask charges during the fight. And back to Kitava's Heart. This time we got a Champion of the Feast and the Shaman. Ow, something's hitting me hard and it hurts. I don't like it. Okay, made it through there. Just gotta damage the heart. In my experience, if you don't just damage the heart, and you try and fight the other stuff, it just gets worse. So I always try to go for the heart. Go to the middle of the room here. There's no extra space on the back end to get behind the cleaves like there was in Act 5. Now we've got that in the middle of the room. We clenched fist. I didn't see any of the location circles on that. Now we're sweeping this way. Just buy my time. Pick the good times to attack, because I don't want to die. I actually try not to use my life flasks even. Biz degen. Fire in the mid. So I can go up here. Alright, we're spawning another ball there. Then what? Sweeping right to left. Get a couple hits in. There's the spell. Sweep this way. Let me dash over there. Oh, we're spawning another one over here now. Okay, we let Innocence go. Getting to the end of it here. Okay, hands go out. Get in the safety. Okay, now, okay, we're in the last bit. 2 hands go in. Now he winds up for the big fire breath. That's big audio cue there. And he will start at one side, come all the way to the other, and there will be a small sliver on the side that he ends at where you have a spot to stand. And I'll try and stall and let him do it again. The safe spot there. Okay, only 1 hand under. So he's going left first. So there's going to be a little sliver at the end here that there's safety. So, whichever side he starts at, that's not the side you want to be on. So, we're getting super close. Here. Nice. Another one of those orbs. Okay, but I, got him. Still not over yet. Still got to finish out the heart. And now the heart is being barraged in physical spell damage. So, that's a little scary. I'm going to summon my Stone Golem because I've got a ring that if I've summoned a Stone Golem in the past 10 seconds, I get Onslaught for 10 seconds. So that helps a lot. just randomly throwing things together that worked. Put on this belt because it had fizz damage. Put on this ring because it had fizz damage. But then I get Onslaught when I cast the Golem skill. Put on a Praxis for a bunch of mana recovery so I could easily run the 6 link that is linked with Elemental Prolif, which I'm doing mostly fizz damage with some chaos damage. So this chest is not useful for this at all. So not a good build. But this was a really cool experience, I think. Going through, like, doing an all bosses run of the Path of Exile campaign, it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of stuff hidden in crazy places. And I got to see bosses I didn't know existed myself. I got to see abilities on bosses just by stalling them out that I've never seen before. Some wild stuff. And it's like, some of these bosses just don't exist in maps, so the only time to get to see these boss fights is during the campaign, which I kind of was assuming that almost everything that was in the campaign was in maps, but that is not true. There's a blue Rakengo that has just been chilling in Comb's dream, so that's there. And then, who knows, later today, after this comes out, how much of this all changes, right? Because they've told us to expect some surprises through the campaign. So if you are watching this to like learn about the boss fights and stuff, I hope too much of it doesn't change. There were a couple little hiccups with some mechanics just not spawning. I don't know what's up with that. That's not something I've encountered before. So I'm wondering if those might be some kind of precursor to those bosses getting changes in the upcoming Necropolis League, but who knows? Like, I learned things doing this, so I really hope that you guys learned some things too about the bosses in the PoE campaign. It was a weird experience. I will say it's weird trying to talk through the boss fights when I'm normally trying to be focused, and then like hitting a level and like holding back my excitement and not talking about like what I'm trying to do passive tree wise. I wound up getting a bunch of two-handed damage nodes, a lot of resistance, a lot of life regen, so I could just absorb almost all the damage in the game. And this build was built for the entire purpose of just doing this, so that I wasn't doing anything crazy. It's obvious that's my cleave, that's my attack. I'm not doing much else in the fights ever, so we could focus on just the boss mechanics and see what they were doing. I hope I did a good job of explaining everything. I really just did this on the fly, like one take through it all, with the exception of Shavron and Brutus in Act 6. I was trying to get some attack to happen that just wouldn't. So, and educational type content is not normally what I'm doing on this channel. I'm more just kind of talking through my decision making as I progress characters through the game, making crazy off the cuff builds, just doing random stuff that works, and making something really unique, which is what I plan to keep doing in Necropolis League. So I hope you join me on my adventure through that. But that's going to do it for this video. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit the like button, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss more videos from me. If you'd like to help support my channel, please consider using the super thanks, the heart icon just below the video, or by joining to become a member. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.